So of course, when any massive yet controversial trade goes down, conspiracy theories abound. Well, some think there's some semi-sketchy stuff that went down that's now trying to be walked back on Micah's end now that the trade got done. Obviously, the truth is probably always somewhere in the middle, but in today's video, I'll attempt to break down what's going on with that, talk about some players getting paid, another player taking a pay cut to return home, some great injury updates around the league, and more right after. Alright, first up, the Steelers locked up running back Jaylen Warren to a new contract extension today. It's a 2-year extension that turns his contract into a 3-year, $17.25 million deal with a little over $11 million guaranteed. Not bad at all, considering he was a former UDFA and hasn't made a start in his career. But that's all about to change now with Najee Harris out of the fold and with the Chargers. Warren's averaged 4.8 yards per carry and has caught 127 passes out of the backfield through his first 3 seasons in the league. And with a bigger workload incoming, they're betting on him a little bit here by getting this deal done now. They also drafted Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round this year, and he figures to work in a bit as well. But Jaylen Warren is currently the RB1 in Pittsburgh. There's no question about that. Mike Tomlin always loves to pound the rock. The Steelers were 6th in rush attempts last year, so don't expect that to change too much, even if their quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, and I think Warren could be in for his first 1,000-yard season as a pro. Another deal that got done recently took place out in Dallas, and no, I'm not talking about the Micah Parsons trade, though I will touch on that in a moment because there are some updates worth talking about, and that was obviously a pretty tumultuous negotiation with Micah anyway, though things seem to go a little smoother with cornerback DaRon Bland. Yesterday afternoon, they locked him up to a 4-year, $92 million extension with $50 million guaranteed. This actually makes him the 6th highest paid corner in the league and the highest paid in the NFC East. Bland missed the first 10 games of 2024 with a stress fracture in his foot, but he returned for the final 7 games and is believed to be fully healthy at this point. The last time we saw him play a full season was in 2023 when he led the NFL with 9 interceptions, 5 of which were returned for touchdowns, and that set a new NFL record. So while Bland will be hoping to get back to his 2023 form, his running mate in that secondary, Trayvon Diggs, well, his status for week 1 is still up in the air. Diggs has been working through a knee injury and was just activated off the PUP list last week. He's been a full participant in practice the last few days, so trending in the right direction. I'm just not sure he'll be fully back in action or not at this point. So that's some good news for Cowboys fans, though a good portion of them are still trying to get over what happened late last week, when Micah Parsons was traded to the Green Bay Packers. Sure, the Cowboys got defensive tackle Kenny Clark to help stop the run better, per the words of Jerry Jones, and 2 first-round picks in return, but trading away one of the best edge rushers in the league in the middle of his prime is not something you love to see your favorite team do. Jerry Jones swears this move will improve the Cowboys overall, saying, quote, "This gives us a better chance to be a better team than we have been the last several years." Okay, sure, I guess. It was a pretty crazy ending to a situation that never even had to really get to this point. Jerry Jones had multiple opportunities to get Micah extended. He could have done that last year when Micah was ready to negotiate. Shoot, he could have paid both Dak and CeeDee Lamb earlier than he did as well, and that would have saved a lot of money. But Jerry Jones waited, and now Dak is making $60 million a year, and CD is making $34. That left little room to get a deal done with Parsons, even though Micah wanted to get it done himself. Jane Slater of NFL Network spoke with Micah and said he and his representation went to the Cowboys one last time last week when the trade interest was leaked. They wanted to get an extension done, but according to Slater, their response was, play on the 5th year of your contract or leave. Jerry Jones confirmed that this was said, by the way, which is certainly an interesting way to go about it. It's not like they lost him for nothing, to be clear, but Micah is an elite player at a premium position. That's the type of guy you try to do everything in your power to keep around. I will say, if the Cowboys use 1 or 2 of these firsts to move way up and grab their perceived to be quarterback of the future, maybe it's a win, but a draft pick is never a sure thing. Meanwhile, Micah Parsons is a sure thing. But hey, Dak Prescott, he's not getting any younger, so maybe they try to get their quarterback of the future, considering the Packers just paid Micah Parsons basically quarterback money. We'll have to revisit this trade in a couple of years once we find out what comes of those picks, but don't expect them to be high first rounders because Green Bay is positioning themselves to be contenders for the near future. Kenny Clark is no slouch. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler and is a great player in his own right, but he's about to be 30 in October, and elite pass rushers are much harder to find than higher level defensive tackles. They're also more valuable, which is exactly why upon trading for him, the Packers signed Micah to that behemoth of a deal. 4 years, $188 million with $120 million guaranteed. They're paying him $47 million per year, by far the most of any defender in league history, and honestly has him roughly top 10 in quarterback money. But Micah knows a thing or two about making history, as he's just one of 2 players to ever record 12 or more sacks through his first 4 seasons. The other, Reggie White, who didn't start his career with the Packers, but did make 6 All-Pro teams with them later on in his career. So the addition of Parsons definitely makes the Packers defense better, and that adds even more competition to one of the toughest divisions in all of football in the NFC North as it is. Now, Parsons was seen out there at Packers practice today rocking his new number 1, but apparently he was just a limited participant. If you remember, Micah had been sitting out of Cowboys practices with what was described as a back injury, though everybody kind of figured that would disappear after a deal or a trade got done. Well, maybe not, because today Adam Schefter reported that Parsons has been dealing with a joint sprain in his back and may need to take an epidural injection in order to play in Sunday's game against the Lions. He wants to play, but a source told Schefter that it's uncertain at this point if he actually will. Well, considering the investment the Packers just made in Parsons, they would probably be wise to err on the side of caution here. It's a long season after all, and they have aspirations of a deep playoff run, so if it were me, sure, might have him sit this one out and then revisit it ahead of week 2. I don't think this is a long-term issue. After all, he had to pass a physical to complete the trade, and the Packers were aware of this. And if there was any serious concerns there, why would they extend him to that massive deal? Anyway, that's why some people think this entire report could be an attempt to hide the fact that Micah was faking an injury all along. The fact that this report came out after we saw the first practice footage of Micah in Packers gear is interesting from a timeline perspective. When people saw Micah was out at practice today, many were quick to say, hey, he faked his back injury while in Dallas. Look, there's the proof. So the conspiracy theory that's floating around is that Micah's agent leaked the possibility of him getting an epidural to Schefter and other insiders as an attempt to make his injury seem more legitimate, when in reality, he doesn't need an epidural at all. Now, to be clear, that's just a theory that some people are throwing out there online, and there's no way of actually confirming that part. But later today, Rob Demovsky of ESPN shared that before trading him, the Dallas Cowboys prescribed Parsons a 5-day course of prednisone. That's an anti-inflammatory corticosteroid. Hope I said that right. I'm not a freaking doctor, okay? To help him recover from back tightness. They also had him on a physical therapy program, and that's why it doesn't seem like Micah Parsons was faking it, because if the Cowboys could confirm that they had him on prednisone prior to the trade, that probably should shut all the conspiracy stuff down. But hey, some are still saying the timing of all these reports coming out is at least a bit suspect, but make sure to let me know if you're buying that, or do you think the back issue seems real enough to have his first game in jeopardy, or even if he does play, no, there really is a back issue there going on. If I had to put money down on Micah playing this weekend, I do think he plays, but that's just me. Let's move on, though, because another trade went down last week with Adam Thielen heading back home to Minnesota. Thielen started his career there back in 2014, playing 9 seasons as a Viking Skull before signing with Carolina in 2023. Even well into his 30s, Thielen has remained productive on the field, which is why the Panthers were reluctant to deal him. But their GM Dan Morgan spoke with the media recently and revealed that Thielen made it clear to him Minnesota was where he wanted to be as he finishes up his NFL career. Morgan didn't want to stand in his way, acknowledging that there's a human aspect of it on top of the football decisions. That's pretty honorable of him, in my opinion, and so is Adam Thielen taking a pay cut to help facilitate this trade. Ian Rappaport shared that Thielen agreed to reduce his salary by $2 million and remove $4 million in possible incentives in order to make this happen. Pretty wild, but Thielen is now back home, and he joins what could end up being a very stacked receiver group. Jordan Addison is going to start this season serving a 3-game suspension, which is part of the reason why they pursued Thielen in the first place, but once Addison is back, they'll have Justin Jefferson, Addison, Thielen, and TJ Hawkinson, plus you can't forget about Aaron Jones in the backfield as well. As for how this affects the Panthers, well, the timing of this was actually pretty unfortunate for them because just days after trading away Thielen, Jalen Coker, a guy who was in line to start for them this season, unfortunately suffered a quad injury and landed on IR to start the season. His season isn't done, which is good news, so they designated him to return. He's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks. They're expecting him to miss around 4 to 6. But with that being the case, they actually brought back Hunter Renfrow, who they just released during roster cutdowns last week. Renfrow was making a comeback after missing all of last season, dealing with ulcerative colitis. A lot of doctor terms today, but then a hamstring injury during training camp threw a wrench in the plans. However, with Thielen gone and Coker missing time, they're looking pretty thin at receiver, at least from a depth perspective, so they reached back out to him. Hunter actually said that he had over 10 missed calls from the GM, the head coach, and his agent because his daughter kept declining them. She kept hitting the FU button so she could keep watching Bluey on his phone, which I thought was actually pretty funny. But right now, the Panthers receiving core is comprised of the rookie Tet McMillan, Xavier Legette, the veteran David Moore, then Hunter Renfrow, and the other rookie Jimmy Horn Jr. Next up, the Bills are going to be without defensive tackle DeWayne Carter for the entire 2025 season after he sadly tore his Achilles. Carter was a third-round pick last year, starting 3 games for them his rookie season, but he figured to be an even bigger part of the rotation along that D-line this year, so this is a bit of a blow to Buffalo's depth in that regard. Carter posted this picture on his Instagram following his surgery, appearing to be in pretty good spirits, all things considered, so I definitely wish the guy the best in his recovery, and hopefully he's able to come back strong in 2026. Now, for some positive injury news, Dolphins running back Achane appears to be on track to play Week 1. Achane picked up a calf injury 2 weeks ago and hasn't practiced since, but he was back out there today with Mike McDaniel confirming that, barring any setbacks, the expectation is that he's good to go Week 1 against the Colts. Texans safety CJ Gardner-Johnson is also expected to be ready for Week 1. A little surprising to me, but good news, and that's according to head coach D'Amico Ryans. It's a little surprising to me because Gardner-Johnson has been out since early August after injuring his knee during practice, and at first it looked like it was potentially severe, but an MRI revealed that his ACL was intact and he avoided disaster there. The Texans just traded for him in the spring and have big plans for him in that secondary, so it's good news that he is progressing well. 49ers wideout Jawan Jennings has been out even longer than that, though. He hadn't practiced since late July, as he too was dealing with a calf injury, but just like Achane, he was back out at practice today, which is a good sign for his Week 1 availability. Some think his extended absence may have had more to do with the fact that he wants a new contract, but I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and we'll see how much he actually plays if he does end up dressing out after missing all that time. Then we got some good news out of LA today. Well, really 2 LA teams today, with Jim Harbaugh telling the media that Najee Harris has been cleared for contact and has a chance to suit up Week 1. The Chargers moved him off the NFI list last week as he's been recovering from an eye injury he sustained from a freak firework accident over the 4th of July, so he appears to be progressing, though we'll have to wait and see whether he's good to go Friday against the Chiefs. If he is, how much does he actually play is the question. Regardless, I think we see a lot from the rookie, the first-round draft pick, Omarion Hampton, and that is who gets the majority of the workload. And then after dealing with the back issue keeping him out of training camp, Stafford is expected to start Week 1, which is great news for the other LA team, the Rams, considering he's still a top 10 QB in the NFL, back issues or not. Then their offensive line will look more fortified with their left tackle Alaric Jackson trending towards also starting Week 1 as he has been dealing with blood clots. He's still being monitored and all that, but things are trending in the right direction for him. So we've definitely got to keep eyes on Alaric as well as Stafford's back because he's going to need to have it managed throughout the season, and that O-line needs to hold. And if he ever needs time off, talking about Matt Stafford, it's going to be Jimmy G slinging the rock to Davante Adams, who wanted out of Vegas, okay? He did not want to play for the Raiders anymore the last time Jimmy G was the quarterback throwing him passes, which is at least a little funny here and has some irony involved if Stafford can't indeed play. But hey, that's all I got for today, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.